All right. With that, we're going to move into our final closing keynote on one of the most important and central topics to all of e-commerce. It's going to be that email, SMS, and really customer-centric segmentation and personalization strategy across multiple different channels. And that's why they called the tool OmniSend. Greg, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you? It's been
Hey,
a
doing
while.
great. It's been a little while. Yeah, I know. We need to catch up at an event. You're not at Retail X right now, I noticed. Neither am I.
No, I'm passing it this year.
Yeah, I also am thinking I'm going to wait until May just because I have too much business to do. But I am jealous of everybody out there going to a live event. And hopefully I'll see you at our live event in May, e-commerce day live. But enough about that. I'm just going to bring your presentation on screen. If you want to hit the hide button at the bottom of that presentation.
Oh, there we go.
Well, and
Year
then
and a
I'll
half.
let
You would
you.
think I would have this by now,
No, you've done this a million times or 100 times, and it's well rehearsed, and the value that you and OmniSend bring is clearly there, and a reason for merchants to pay close attention to. And just like how with Peel Insights, I was talking about how cool it is that they have data that like nobody else has that can help merchants really understand business intelligence. I think you have a lot of unique data from your merchants that help explain, the best flows and sequences, the best, are you converting well, and things like that I think really help merchants understand whether they're being, they're top of market with their email campaigns and SMS campaigns, or they need a lot of work. So with that said, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, and that's great. And the cool thing about our data is that the data we're going to be looking at in the presentation today, we put out a week ago. So it's fresh for us first half of this year. So obviously compare that to 2020 as well. But we do have fresh and relevant data for you as well. So just real quick, I know you guys aren't here for an elevator pitch and we're wrapping up the day here. So I'm going to give you a 20-second one, just kind of background info, more to set the stage for where this data is coming from. So Derek, as you mentioned, OmniSend is an email and SMS marketing automation platform. We are built specifically for e-commerce merchants. So the data we're looking at is e-commerce brands. We have over 50,000 brands using us to send their emails, SMS messages, push notifications, and sync to their social networks as well. So that is kind of setting the stage there. Now, the program today, we're going to look at actionable insights. So my goal with every presentation I give is when you hang up or disconnect or leave the room, that you have something actionable that you can start implementing immediately to help you either increase sales, drive new sales, optimize what you currently have going. So hopefully we'll get that through the presentation today as well. So as we walk through the presentation, really the things I want to hammer on is we're going to look at trends with opt-in channels, and this conversation around opt-in channels is really important now. We had Apple iOS 14.5 come out a while ago, which kind of impacted a lot of brands and how they're the effectiveness of their Facebook and Instagram campaigns. I know I was talking to one just the other day. They're still dealing with it a little bit. It's getting better. We've got an upcoming iOS 15 release, which is supposed to be out some point next month, which for an email marketer is seismic, right? Email, it advances, but it still kind of moves somewhat slow. And we're pretty much killing the open rate at this point with the new updates. So I'll get into that a little bit, what that means and how to actually prepare for that a little bit. But we want to use this data with the opt-in channels to then look at our own programs, whether it's email, SMS, push notifications, whatever it might be, and say, okay, what are the gaps we have? And not only are we filling gaps, but are we filling them with something that is the highest potential to increase our sales from the shortest period. So low-hanging fruit that's going to have the biggest bang for the buck. And then we're going to look at whether we have them or we don't have them already sending, automating. How do we optimize those to drive even more revenue for you? And the caveat with all of this is that I used to do consulting. I used to be a practitioner. I was an analyst. I'd be talking to retailers around the globe, and the same story is the same. We don't have a lot of resources. It might be you doing email marketing. You might be a one-man shop there. You might have one person helping you, but chances are you're also doing other things: paid search, paid social, content marketing, copywriting. So everything we talk about today is how do we get you to do this with the realization that you have limited resources. And if you have more resources, all the power to you, you can just move a lot quicker. So that's what we're going to look at in the presentation today. And we're going to first look at this for trying to identify those gaps here. So Where do we look for the gaps? And as I mentioned, this data is coming from an H1, so first half 2021 report we put out last week. You can find it on our website. It is ungated, so it is just there for you to click over and peruse as you wish. So we're looking at the data here, and you can see kind of quarter over quarter, half over half, whatever it might be. Your holes and the opportunity for increasing sales is going to be with marketing automation. That's going to come in a lot of different ways, but see conversion rates for automation skyrocketing there. They came down a little bit, but they were astronomical before. That will level off, but it's still at 30 some percent there. Push notifications, so web push there, the second one. 1 in 3 people in the first half of this year who clicked on a web push notification has gone on to make a purchase. Now, it's certainly not a channel that is widely adopted like email and SMS. So I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it today, but keep your eye on it because it is blowing up this year. And then your bottom two, which are still really good, are your campaigns. And what that is your scheduled email campaign, something you might send on a Tuesday, and then your SMS messages. And while those might pale in comparison, I'll get into these in a little bit more detail. They are really strong from a conversion rate, click rate standpoint, and also from a utilization standpoint. So what we want to do is we want to look at this data here and say, okay, we know automation is going to be one of these gaps to fill. And the question then becomes, well, which type of automation? Because you can kind of automate everything. It's about picking the right ones. I want to put automation in perspective for you. So in the first half of 2021, this report, we looked at billions of emails we sent. We looked at 25 million SMS messages, over 20 million push messages as well. So the data is large. 32% of all email marketing orders came from automated emails. The percentage of sends that accounts to is less than 2.5%. It was 2.44% of email sends, made up 32% of email orders. So if you think about this, going in the background while you sleep, generating orders, generating sales, and this is where we go. In 2020 as a whole, 29% on 1.8% of sends. So we're seeing that relatively consistent figure, but that's going to be your first identification. Say, okay, if we don't have a lot of automation or we don't have any automation, this is where you need to focus on. The next question becomes, well, what do we focus on? This is good, right? This is one data point here to say, okay, our promotional campaigns, we're getting about a 7% conversion rate, which is a really strong number, by the way. So that's a really good number. And we look and we go down and we don't want to base it all on conversion rates, but it's a really good indication that, hey, this is where people are shopping. So welcome messages above 50%. I'm going to get into why that is so high and what we're looking for to help guide you with your other decisions that are going to be right for your brand. But you can see abandoned cart, kind of obvious. Everyone knows they convert really well. It's close to cash. They're so close to purchasing. And then we kind of go down the road. So I think one of the bigger takeaways here is look at the worst performing conversion rate. And that is browse abandonment message. That actually dropped down from 2020 as a whole. We have more people doing product abandonment. It still performs better than any email you're going to send on a Tuesday or Thursday afternoon, right? It's better than scheduled. So this is why we do it. Now, the reason these convert so well is because they're automated. They're based on consumer behavior. So we've got one action that drives an equal and opposite reaction. So, person abandons the cart, they get it. It's behavioral. And this is what we're really driving to is high conversion, high purpose messages. So consumers doing something with a welcome. What are they doing there? Well, it's probably high conversion, high purpose for their particular needs. And that's really why they convert. So when we look at the types of messages we might want to fill those gaps with, we want to look to see, okay, what is the journey for that consumer at that point? How close are they making a purchase and what's the likelihood they purchase? Now, the other data points we want to use here are, opens, click rates. Now, opens, as I mentioned, come next month, it's going to take a serious hit here because if you're using Apple Mail and you upgrade to iOS 15, you're going to get prompted like you did with 14.5. Do you want to allow brands to track whether you open your email or not, right? And most people, we saw about 93% are saying, don't track me through the different apps from the 14.5. We expect the same thing here. Fact is, if we have 5% of people saying, no, don't track me, it makes your open rates unreliable as a whole, because if we have remails, which are typically automated messages sent to people who didn't open the first one, and we're doing that based on open, and we can't accurately track opens, then that becomes, you're going to be sending the people who have opened the first one. So open rates, the good thing here is we know a baseline. We know they perform better than campaigns, our scheduled messages. We have a general baseline to say, okay, we know we have high conversion on welcome messages. What's our open rate? pretty good open rate, not as strong as some of the others, but that's okay. Our click rates are really strong. So how do we focus on getting the click rates up? The more clicks we get, the more conversions we're going to get, and we're going to increase and compound that revenue there. So this is what we're looking at and saying, okay, conversion rates, open rates, click rates. Open rates is going to be a baseline in about a month and a half here, but it's going to be really impactful for your Q4 holiday plan. So automated messages, super important. SMS, super important. How do we optimize our campaigns? Super important as well. So we want to fill the gaps here, and we want to fill them in a strategic manner, in an actionable manner. So what do we do? I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not doing SMS, take a serious look at it. But SMS can drive and increase revenue through your email program. That's why I want to talk about it for just a second. It is an opt-in channel. So again, only consumers like email who say, yes, I want to be marketed to that channel are going to get those messages. It is increasingly being utilized and adopted by both brands and consumers over the last 2 years. We've already sent nearly as many messages in the first half of this year than we did all of last year. We're going to crush it next by the end of this year. We're on pace to do 3 times as many SMS sent than we did last year. And you can see from 2019 and 2020 to the first half of 2021, click rate is going up. So our engagement's going up. Now the conversion rate is down slightly from last year. I guarantee you this will be higher at the end of the year. Q4 sends the majority of all SMS messages. Brands are using them here. So when we look at projections out, it's going to come up. The conversion rate during Q4 for SMS messages also extremely high. Giving Tuesday last year, so a day after Cyber Monday, I think we had a 9% conversion rate on SMS messages. It's nuts. It was 3-point-something% on Black Friday, which was also the highest volume send day last year. So as inboxes become more crowded during those key shopping periods and consumers are adopting SMS, right? Brands are using those to cut through the clutter, but there's another use for them as well. Now, here's why I say SMS is going to be so important. If you're not doing it next time, at this time next year, you're probably going to be playing catch up here, is that everyone texts, right? So the generational cohort narrative that you hear about, like Gen Z, it's only for Gen Z, it's only for millennials. It's a lazy narrative now. It's no longer relevant. Everyone texts. My parents are boomers. They text. I'm a Gen Xer. I text. Here's the thing with those younger cohorts. Now they're all younger to me because I might not look it, but I'm creeping up there in age. Gen Z, which is that young generation, they're already graduating college and they're already in the workforce. Millennials are in their early 40s already. So then you have Gen X like me, young to mid 40s going up to their 50s. We're all texting. This is just a natural communication. So that's a really important point. It's not like push notifications where you have this slow adoption and people are trying to figure out how to use it. SMS is there. It is a trusted channel. We're seeing it from conversions. We're seeing it from clicks. We're seeing it from brands sending out to consumers during those high periods. Here's the beauty though. You can add these to your email workflows. So we can be smart enough to say, okay, whatever we're setting up, is consumer email only? Are they SMS only? Or are they both? Because that's going to change a lot of strategy for you have for how many messages you might want to send for something like cart abandonment, for email only versus someone who is email and SMS. You might want to replace some SMS in there. They're great for last chance reminders. So if nothing else, look into doing it if you're not doing it. And then if you are using it, are you using it to its full potential, putting into the same automated workflows to capitalize upon that customer journey and the customer intent at that moment? That's going to be big. I'm going to show examples of how we can actually do this with email and give you some results as well so you can actually see it in practice. Now it comes to filling in the gaps. All right, we looked at some of the messages that we might want to fill in there. It could be browse, it could be birthday messages, it could be lapse purchase messages. I'm going to give you a couple that I would personally start with, either start with or start optimizing, and I'll tell you why. All right. Lapse purchase messaging, I'm not going to cover. If you stick around to the end of the presentation, I'll tell you why I'm not going to cover it, even though we saw that the conversion rates were better than some other ones. So I'm going to give you 3 different types of messages to focus on. Welcome messages, we saw over 50% conversion rate. Hot toddy, let's get it going. So let's get people converting here. We saw from the first half, again, 53% conversion rate for the most part. Here's what we know about welcome messages. All right. We want to follow the customer journey. We want to follow the intent of purchasing. Why are people signing up for your email program? It's quite simple. You either promise them a discount or they're signing up because they are evaluating you and might want to shop a week from now or 4 days from now. So they want to be reminded of you, or they are ready to make a purchase and they want to see if you hide a discount in there without promising them. At the end of the day, they are on your website, they're signing up for something. That is your signal that they are ready to buy. And they're probably going to buy it from you or someone else, but they are buying. So the old school mentality of what you do in a welcome series is, hey, send a message, tell them all about your brand, tell them your life story, tell them how much you're going to send to them, put your send cadence out there. Those things are missing the point. There's a huge conversion opportunity that's being missed there, because the consumer, if they're signing up for your program, they're on your site, chances are they've gone through at least a little bit of that research already. They're aware of what you got going on there, but they are following some sort of a purchase journey at this point. So we want to cater to that purchase journey. So think about what really matters to them at that point. Sign up for the email program. Instead of saying, hey, this is all about us, you can always link to that in your welcome message, maybe in the navigation bar. But what matters to them if they are in a purchase mindset? Maybe top rated products or testimonials or other sort of user generated content you might want to send to them to influence that purchase. Probably shipping and return policies, right? Am I going to get hassle-free returns? Do I have an extended return policy? These are things that are going to drive a consumer to say, hey, okay, your brand might be a little bit better than that brand, or everything,'s equal. I don't really care who I buy from. You both give me 10% off in the welcome message, but I get free returns for these guys. That's a deciding factor. So think about all the value adds that your company might offer over your competitors, or you just want to call out 24/7 customer service, right? Concierge, whatever it might be, and promote those in your welcome series. Same with, I mentioned top rated products. That could be a message all in itself. Customers, give these sets of jeans, 5 stars across the board. The other thing you can look at is finding ways to enhance that initial welcome message. And it doesn't have to be earth shattering here. You can see the examples from Figpin, which is a customer of ours. I'm going to tell you about their stats here in a second. These are not earth shattering messages. They just know their brand. There's no incentive included in here. But think about if you have a pop up, and this is all based on how your site is structured. But if you have a pop up, for instance, that shows up when Greg is viewing men's shoes, and you have an identical pop-up that shows up when Nicole is checking out women's swimsuits. And when they submit that, you just tag that person and be like, okay, this email address, Greg, it's men's shoes. Well, think about what you could do in a welcome message. You could have some recommended products for men's shoes. You could have top-rated men's shoes. And for the women's, you can target that a little more directly and have a very customized, more relevant message to the customer without really doing anything, right? It's very minor at that point. So always think about the customer intent with your automated messages. Think about the journey. And these are small things you can just iterate. So you can see the Figpin examples here, right? 52% conversion rate. It's a pretty high number. My guess is most brands are going to be a little bit under that. You might have deep discounts that kind of drive that number a little bit here. So Figpin, they have a 22% conversion rate across all 3 messages, no discounts in there. So that's pretty darn good. These messages count for just over 3% of their total email revenue with no discounts. So they've got 3% of their email revenue just on automation, converting people with 0 discounts given, unlike you might see again on a promotional message here. So they can be impactful. And then you can take it a step further. We talked about SMS before, but think about this. Okay, on that pop-up sign-up form or wherever you're collecting the sign-up form, are you asking for mobile number as well? Some people will give it to you. Some people won't give it to you. It's a great way to test whether people will give it to you is just by asking for it. And if they don't, it's your sign that your audience isn't interested. So Black Halo is a good example here. They offer a discount, 10% off for signing up. So they'll say, if you're signed up for both, we'll send you a welcome email. We'll also send you a welcome SMS message. Now, the beauty here is, one, they start those communications in the channels that you opted into. 2, maybe I abandon my email. I'm shopping when I'm in a passenger seat in someone's car later, and I want to go back to buy something, or I'm on the train commuting to work. I don't have to go to my email to find a discount code. I've got it right there in my inbox. So you make the purchase path a lot easier. And you can see the metrics here. So this series, from an email standpoint, generates 9% of their total email revenue for the course of the year. Percentage of sends that accounts for less than 0.2%. 0.17% is driving 9% of their email revenue. So you can see the earning per message on the SMS, 746. So again, that 746 is on top of that email revenue. So a simple automated welcome message that really just mirrors the welcome email message is generating $7.50 for every time they send one. That's a pretty sweet deal there. So think about it again. We're following that customer intent. We're providing more opt-in channels that can feed the email. Next thing I'd recommend you to do, chances are most brands do have abandoned cart messages. Not all do, but most have them at least to a scaled down, stripped down version. That's okay. Those things still work, right? We want to become simple and become more advanced over time. But cart abandonment messages, we're close to cash here. So we want to think about, there's two questions that I always tell people to really think about when they're looking to make their cart abandonment messages more profitable, increase more sales. We've got a 40% conversion rate. Pretty good. We want to take that all day long. These are the two questions I ask. What matters and who are they? And this, you could have, I say this lovingly, you could have the worst cart abandonment messages in the world. And if you tailor these messages to answer these two questions, you can leave it a terrible message and you'll still get high conversion. So let me explain what this means. What matters to the consumer? Well, this is where you can use your marketing automation tool to really step up in a very simple split. So in the workflow, you have almost like a yes no path. Well, what matters to the consumer? My answer would be, well, it depends on the consumer. It's a generic answer, but think about from a very simplistic version. Okay, we want to make these messages more relevant than they are. Say you have a $35 free shipping threshold on your website. You could have that split. Cart total under 35, cart total over 35. And here's why. What matters to the person abandoning a $20 shopping cart? Well, it's probably, getting over that free shipping threshold, because people don't want to pay for shipping typically. It's one of those little barriers. They will do it, but it's a barrier you've got to overcome. But they have different needs at that point. So whether you want to change your incentive strategy and give them a minimum spend on there to get them over free shipping, kind of get them a double dip there, whether you want to offer no incentive to people there, having a split there, those people have a very different mindset for why they didn't make that purchase versus the person who might be have a $200 or $300 shopping cart. Free shipping doesn't matter to them. They expect it at that point. But what they do probably care about are return policies. Do I get free returns? Are they hassle-free returns? Do I only get store credit for it? Do you have 24/7 support? Whatever it might be, those are things that might matter. So if you have that split based on, say, a free shipping threshold or something very similar to that, you can have one message that is just this, again, stripped down version of a cart abandonment message, but say, hey, don't forget, hassle-free returns, 30 days satisfaction guarantee. And if you need help or have any questions, we have 24/7 customer support. That can enhance that $300 shopping cart to actually make the purchase, because they know when they get it, if something goes wrong there, they can then go back and have a hassle-free return policy. The other question is, who are they? And this is, again, a very simple split you can do in your workflow, but say, have they never purchased from me? Are they a one-time purchaser who is now coming back for a second purchase, or are they a loyal customer? Because this is going to impact, again, maybe a lot of what you do. Do you give the one-time customer a little bit of a sweetener to get them into becoming a second-time purchaser, which we know is where we start to see a little more profitability with that customer? Do you need to bribe someone to make a purchase with you the first time? Or do you just kind of let it go and then, maybe you give them a tier discount, whatever, or just see if they convert on their own? Loyal customers, maybe you don't need to give them anything, or maybe you give them a tier discount, they spend more, or whatever it might be, right? This is kind of based on your own brand and your discounting philosophy. If you discount at all, it might be a luxury brand that doesn't, but this can tailor how you want to message. Hey, Greg, thanks for being a loyal customer. We noticed you left something in your cart. We love to have you back. What can we do for you? But get them before they're gone, right? Use a little sense of urgency there, reinforce the good nature feel here. But if you ask, who are they? It's your clue to figuring out how we want to message to that person to make that 40% conversion rate up in the carts go to 45 and 50%. All money, all while you sleep. And for the third one, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself here because I'm getting a little excited here. But again, we want to layer SMS onto here. So again, you might have a 3-part abandoned cart message. If we can identify someone is signed up for the SMS, think about how we can do this for, okay, maybe we'll just send you 2 messages and we'll give you the third one as an SMS instead. Maybe a loyal customer, you only want to send 1 email, 1 SMS to them. New shopper, never purchased, maybe we want to send 2 of each, whatever it might be. But you can customize that relationship and that communication however you want. Toac Chocolate's a customer of ours. They're not on the screen here, but luxury chocolate brand. They do not discount at all. They have a very basic and stripped down version of a cart abandonment message, 44% conversion rate, no discounts. So it's all possible here. And again, these are things where beyond SMS, we get 1 of 3 people that click on a push notification message, goes on the convert. You can put push notifications into that same workflow as well. Really capitalize them, try to get them before they leave, or try to get them come back before even email and SMS hits them as well. So tons of examples here for you. The last one I'm going to look at today, and I'm going to tell you why I like it over lapse purchase messaging, which has a higher conversion rate than, say, browse abandonment. But product abandonment and browse abandonment, very similar strategies. Product user is on your website, they're shopping for a specified product that you're looking at, and then they leave without carting the product. We can automate messaging to that person to try to get them back. Browse abandonment, think about more category specific. So men's shoes or menswear, right? And then you can automate that back to me. Here's why I recommend this over lapse purchase. And it's a couple different reasons. But one, lapse purchase might convert more, but your conversions are going to be fewer because you're already targeting people who have chosen to lapse with your purchase behavior. So as opposed to funneling someone through or nurturing their customer journey and their purchase intent, which is, again, probably what they have if they're on your website checking out products, we're automating out to people who have purchased but have chosen not to purchase again. Doesn't make it a bad strategy. I recommend doing it, but I would prioritize this because we can connect the dots, which I'll talk about in a minute. So that's why I say, this is where I would go with it. So really important message here. But again, it feeds that customer journey. Greg, I go to your website, I sign up for your welcome messages. I don't convert off there, but then I'm browsing your site. I kind of poke around a little bit, but then I leave because I want to check out some other sites. And we can automate that message, then go out to me after a certain period of time, say, hey, I saw you checking something out, or come back, take a look, and you can highlight some value adds there. Come back, maybe I cart a product, I abandon again. I get those cart messages, and then I convert. So we're just touching people at every different stage of that customer journey to feed their intent, and we're automating it out. So you can see example here from Carrots. I'll talk a little bit about Carrots in the next toward the end of the presentation here in a minute as well. But they do a seasonal and a product abandonment message. So you can see, hey, we're checking this thing out, equestrian apparel. I'm going to give you some value adds, maybe show you a little video in here, and we're going to rock through this thing. So these messages for them convert 630% better than their scheduled promotional messages. Out of all their automated messages, they make up 14% of their email revenue, which is a great number. And again, this is all going on in the background while you're asleep. And, we want to put it all together. And Carrots is that example of putting it together. So it is a one-woman wrecking crew over there. Sarah is their marketing guru. She is mostly working by herself, so she doesn't have those large resources. And she came on the OmniSend and she goes, all right, you have all these tools for the automation. So we'll do the welcome message. Obvious. We'll get that going. Having success with it. Cart abandonment. Obvious. We get that going. We're having success with it. They had no plans to do product abandonment messages. And like, well, OmniSend offered it. So I figured I'd try it. And boom, revenue starts coming in. And they start seeing this. So like, well, maybe we'll start doing post-purchase. We'll do some seasonal bestsellers. We'll do some lapse purchase messaging. And then they were like, you offer SMS. Let me put some SMS in there, right? And then they started doing some of those very simple workflow splits based on customers. So one person very slowly, but in a relatively quick short matter of time, started generating revenue off there. So 23% of their total email revenue, 4% of email sends. So you can kind of see the figures here, and they are just generating repeat customers on here. They're engaging people at every step of that customer journey, and it's super important for them. And it's all with one person kind of doing this work here. So super important, but super doable. And this is where if we look at those charts earlier on, conversion rates, right? We look at click rates, open rates more as a baseline to figure out, okay, we've got high opens here, pretty high conversions here, high clicks. That means high engagement. How do we tie those? And we start making your own punch list for, hey, this is more important for our brand. This is more important for that brand. And you make your punch list and you start implementing as you go through. So, I always tell people opt-in channels, social, paid social, great. Keep doing it if you're doing it. Always look to optimize it. Paid search, if you're doing it, great. Keep doing it. Always look to optimize it. Opt-in channels, do whatever you can because it's data that you're going to own. You're going to collect in one place, and you can use that data to then push out custom audience syncs to like Google Ad Networks or Facebook, Instagram retargeting. But you have more data, which hopefully will increase your ROAS on those other channels as well. So look at those opt-in channels. It's becoming more important, and consumers are liking them. Right, we have iOS 15 rolling around in about a month, so prepare for it. Start collecting mobile numbers now. Again, if you start collecting them and you don't have a plan to use them, that's okay. It's a really good indication that one, whether your customers with your brand and your audience are going to want to get them. And then if you find out you're getting a lot of them, start doing something with them, right? But at least you have numbers to start working with. So Divatress is a customer of ours. I spoke with him on the Card Insiders podcast, which is what I host. They were like, "Well, we'll start asking for him and see what the interest is." 70,000 subscribers in less than a year. It's nuts. It's perfect for their audience, and they would have never known if they didn't just start asking for it. So look at those opt-in channels; they're really important. Automation is essential. It's going to drive revenue in the background, and you can kind of hit it at all stages of the customer experience, the customer journey, and it doesn't have to be hard to do. Keep that all into one place. And look, again, it's done, not perfect. So we want to put a simple message in there. A message is better than a perfect message, and you can iterate and optimize over time, but at least you're generating revenue in the background. Consider where customers purchase from your brand the most. Are they purchasing more from birthday and lapse purchases messages than they are, say, browse abandonment or cart abandonment? Well, birthday and lapse have better conversion rates than browse abandonment, but I'll guarantee you'll have more revenue at the end of the day from browse abandonment than you will from those two. So just prioritize, but don't always base it solely on conversion rate. Look at other data points as well. And again, start simple. One message at a time, iterate, follow the customer journey. Shameless plug here for the Card Insiders podcast. We just wrapped up season 3 a while ago. Whole season was interviewing brands like Carrots, Divatress, Figpin, and each episode talked about one specific email marketing automation series they did. They break down types of messages in there, why they chose those messages, learnings from there, and how they adapted to it. So if you haven't got a chance, check it out. It's really good, and give me any feedback and any questions on any of this. Feel free to reach out to me, Greg at omnisend.com. You can visit omnisend.com. You can find me on social. You can find Omnisend on social. So hit me up and I'll answer questions that you guys have.
Perfect. Awesome. And yes, we'll also have the link to this podcast in the show notes. If you haven't been looking at the show notes, I'll even link you to the show notes in just a second to make sure that you've bookmarked that, because you're going to have to go back through that to take advantage of all the nuggets that Greg just dropped just now. Thanks so much, Greg. So I want to talk to you about opens are dead.
Yes. Yes.
We talked about it earlier in our opening session, actually, with Christine Russo. And this is still very scary to me because I am a marketer that grew up on email open rates. Also, I know that email service providers such as yourself, you typically charge per contact. And if I can't tell who's not opening my emails, I can't scrub my bad contacts out of my database. So I feel like, obviously we're losing information. We're going to have a hard time keeping our list strong. What's the plan? How do we solve for this?
So right there. Right. So I have been doing it. That might not look like it, Derek. I've been doing email marketing for over 15 years. So open rates, right? It's that tried and true metric always there. When I was consulting, I would have customers be like, or clients of mine that would be like, "Hey, can I get open rate benchmarks?" And I would be like, "Don't look at open rate benchmarks because you have no idea how other people treat their list, right?" You just mentioned they could be sending to 100,000 people that haven't opened in a year. Terrible open rates. I can't compare you, right? We went on clean the list. I'm glad open rates are somewhat dying. You hit on the magic, the $1 million question though. It's like open rates from the best thing that open rates do is it gives you a health of your deliverability standpoint, right? So that's how we don't open after 30, 45. Like Gmail looks at those numbers and said, okay, they're not opening messages. You're probably not cleaning your list. I mean, Apple even recommends to look at open rates to clean your list, right? And they're still trying to figure stuff out. Mm-hmm. That is the thing we don't really know, for complete transparency, how this is ultimately going to impact. So I can look at engagement metrics like clicks and things like that, but there are a lot of people that open messages just to kind of see what's going on but they don't click on that. We don't really have an answer for that. We are working on different ways to kind of get around it, but find other identification points in reporting through the platform to say, okay, we think these people are opening. Obviously, one of the things we do is looking at client devices. So we can see whether it's iOS or something else. right? So we know this will only really impact people checking Apple Mail, which is still about 40, based on what you read, 40 to 60% of email opens. So if we know we have Android users or we know we have XYZ web client, we can still use open rates for those people. It's the Apple side of things, the iOS, like the Apple Mail side of things, which is kind of that gray box right now. We don't know. I know we, and I'm sure every other email provider in the world, which is following this, is talking with, email sending infrastructure teams and stuff like that to also figure that out, because that's where those feedback loops are going. So I would tell people, don't panic, clean your list now, right? We have those metrics now. So get a clean list when we're going in, pull those, do your re-engagement campaigns before the end of September, before these updates hit. Have those contacts to the side so you could do, paid retargeting of those. But I would clean the list now. We'll figure out later. I tell you not to panic though. I don't panic.
Yeah, everything's fine. It's the fire with the dog with the cup of coffee. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. I'm not completely convinced. I do agree. Talk to me about. I think I know the answer, but why is Apple doing this? What is it from a privacy standpoint that makes this so important for them to make this change?
This is the really funny question. Is obviously they're trying to set themselves apart in the industry, and they've been doing it for years, right? So this isn't anything new. We saw with the 14.5 update, but they're basing themselves on privacy. We saw this years ago with like Snowden and whatever terrorists, where they're like, nope, we're not going to give you their phone, right? And then they get someone to crack it and stuff like that. So this has kind of been their cause from day one. My gut feel is that, one, the privacy is just kind of coming up more and more as an issue, and that could be the increase in hacks, the increase in this. So you kind of cannibalize on that. Listen, I guarantee you, they're still collecting that data. They're just not sharing it with, the brand, the D2C brand over there,
Yeah. That makes them
XYZ.com.
more powerful, and us peons,
Well, well, so I mean, they've got their own products too, right? They have their own like media ecosystem. So like Apple News and things like this, like they're going to have a use for that. They'll have publishers. They'll
A
probably be
very
selling
large
that data.
e-commerce company.
Yes. So I mean, there's a use case for it. So like they've got their own reasons. They're going to spin it in the privacy standpoint. I think the unfortunate part is, I don't think the general consumer, well, I don't think consumers and marketers are really aware of it. I don't think the general consumer, for the most part, understands how looking at activity and things like that impact the relevance of the messages that you might send. Now, sometimes they don't. Now, we'll still be able to look to see, and this is kind of the importance of having that data in one place. We can still see clicks. So we know Greg clicks. We can still see website behavior. So Greg clicks, or Greg is checking out xyz.com without clicking on the email. We can still append that to the record if we've captured them. So, from an identification standpoint. So we'll still have data, having that data in the one place. SMS recipients, right? Your SMS and email are on two different platforms. You've got siloed data. There's more that we could say, okay, we don't think Greg is opening his messages here. We don't really know, but we don't think he is, but he's super engaged with SMS. So I can make a
So we keep
educated guess that, I can make an educated guess. I'm still interacting with emails. If I want to go the extreme, I go, well, at least I got this channel over here, but I can tie those records together. So I think that's
huge. So it
yeah.
emphasizes SMS more. I'll give you my theory on the good reason to perhaps do this is so that spammers can't see open rates and then verify an email address that way. That was my first thought and understanding of it. What is that? Am I just off base, or is it just part of it? Maybe, I don't know.
I think it had to have come up at some point, right? I think that's a huge thing as well, right? There's nothing worse than, right, phishing attempts. This is a huge thing, right? Because phishing is getting so much better now. Like you get messages that look legit.
I've been phished 4 times today through SMS.
There you go. So, I mean, SMS and email, it's all the same, right? They're cloaking email addresses where you might think it's actually coming from something. You got to dig down into see like, hey, this is actually XYZ47, at whatever. It's got to be one of the reasons, right? So this is probably just a compounding thing, but at some point they want to centralize this data for XYZ reason. We'll probably figure that out in about 6 months or so when they announce their new product, but Uh, but yeah,
Apple email, are you threatened? Like,
so well, here's the other thing, Derek, which is really interesting is we have this unofficial survey inside our platform right now. It's like, are you aware of, I forgot the exact term. It's pretty much like yes, no. Are you aware of the upcoming iOS 15 changes and how it's going to impact email marketing? It's about 50-50 right now
okay,
that people
that's
are,
good. I
and
honestly didn't know about this change until now. I think I even went to Opens Are Dead, but I thought this was more of a PR stunt, if I'm being honest, by OmniSend. But now I see that it's actually really important. It's a
yeah,
little bit of
so
both.
yeah, so if you weren't at the beginning, right, opensaredead.com, it's a kind of a website that we threw up right away. It's got our insights that we have external, non-OmniSend affiliated people with commentary and stuff, but it just gives you more information about what this all means. But I think the scary part of this is like we have that website. It's been up for, I don't know, a month and a half already. We've been talking about iOS 15 and how it's going to change open rates. For the fact that half of marketers surveyed that have filled out this form said, I'm not aware of this. Like, that's kind of, what are they going to do when this thing rolls out and they're like, oh, my open rates are like 80%. This is awesome. It's like,
Yeah.
so I think that's a bigger story is just how many people are actually aware of this thing. I do think it's flying under the radar.
Will you create separate open rates for because you can kind of see who's going to have 100% open rate. So you're going to give me my open rate when I remove the iCloud accounts or the iOS devices, or is it just like we're just removing open rate?
No, we're going to have open rates on there still because there's still some value in there based on, but you'll be able to see the client that they're opening on. So we know, like I
Okay.
mentioned, right, this is only Apple Mail. So if you're on Android, or even if I'm on my phone, my iPhone, and like I have some Gmail accounts personally that I use through Apple Mail, and others I use the Gmail app for.
Yeah.
Gmail app, I'll be fine, right? We can still track that stuff. So we will have that separated out.
Well,
So
if you have the mail app on your phone, then I feel like it's going to force send the open data for that or something. I don't know how they actually can pull this off. I don't know logistically, do they actually open every message or do they just trick open, but then they mark it as unread? I don't know. Maybe it's simpler than I think.
yeah, I'm not sure of the details. I somewhat compare this though to, you remember, I think it was 2012, 2013. I think it was 2012, but Gmail announced they're going to image cache and images will turn on by default at that point, right? Before then it was bulletproof buttons and 60/40 text to image ratio and like
No
all the
image.
evals look terrible, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden people freaked out. They're like, our open rates, we're not going to know what's going on with them. And it was all for naught, right? You saw it's okay. Like they figured it out, right? It worked for them. I do think you will have other platforms like Android and stuff. I do think that, if we look 6 months out into the new year, they will probably follow suit to try to compete with that too, which could be a whole nother ballgame where you could lose them altogether. But if you lose 20% of opens, like it's not apples to apples. They mostly become unreliable.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing we know for sure is that the future is going to be changing
Yes.
and OmniSend is on top of those changes. So if you are thinking about combining email and SMS and other channels as well, or if you're struggling with your email marketing, you guys got to check out OmniSend, ecomtech.link/OmniSend will get you to the site. Greg, amazing conversation. I feel we could go on for hours because there's more questions I have,
We will
but
more in person.
yeah, exactly. We'll leave it at that. Really, thank you so much for the presentation. Amazing knowledge bombs there. And I look forward to seeing you at a live event, and I look forward to continuing to see the success of OmniSend and the growth of OmniSend.
Very good. Thanks again for having us, Derek. This is always fun. And thanks everyone for attending in your time today.
Awesome. All right. Talk to you later. With that, we are at the end of day one. Day two will start at 9:30 a.m. tomorrow. You might only get a session notification for the 9:40 a.m. session. You won't want to miss that. It's me and Elise from WeCommerce. WeCommerce is a fund dedicated to investing in e-commerce technology products. So we're going to go even deeper. Christine talked about retail technology, and we talked about emerging trends there. Elise and I are going to talk specifically about changes in the e-commerce technology space and how she views that from the venture fund perspective. It's going to be a good conversation. And of course, we've got a whole bunch of amazing sessions lined up for you tomorrow, including our closing merchant interview on how to raise $10 million as an e-commerce brand in a taboo industry. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow. Thanks again to OmniSend and all of our existing and additional sponsors. Too many to even mention at this point. I would love your feedback, by the way, and what sessions you enjoyed today. I'm still thinking about Bloom and how amazing that tool is. I don't know if you get it, but I am like, oh my God, this is amazing. But anyways, with that said, I will let you go and I will see you guys tomorrow. Talk to you later.